Yeah, just kind of want to point this out, man. It's like, you see these Muslim groups, right? This Muslim movement, they basically they want to impose a non-Muslim tax upon the world, the infidel tax. In other words, if you're not a Muslim, if you don't want to convert, you have to pay them monthly to do whatever you do and not be Muslim affiliated. And that is not much difference from the mafia in New York when when some thugs come walking up in your store, your liquor store, and they're like, hey, we're selling fire insurance. Hey, you wouldn't want your building to catch on fire now. We'll protect you from the gang. In all actuality, it is the gang. In other words, they're coming in and saying, look, if you don't pay us, we're going to make your life a living hell. And so, I mean, the Muslim agenda is nothing more than a freaking mafia. But in all actuality now, the Catholic Church is, you got to pay 200 pieces of gold or silver or whatever to have your sins absolved and get your dead family members out of purgatory. I mean, that's a literal con that they used to flow. And once again, there's a heavy mafia. What is it? Mussolini affirms fire insurance and arson. Something like that. That's what mafia actually stands for. So, and it comes straight up out of, Sicily or whatever, which is just another section of Rome, in a way. So that's why you have a heavy influence there. And then Sicily was conquered by who? The Moors. And at one point in time, supposedly, I don't know, I'm not a freaking expert, but that's why Chrislam isn't really a new thing. It's basically Muhammad was an operative, a subversive operative, who was married to a Catholic nun who was affiliated with the Pope. So in other words, he was propped up and trained by the Catholics. So they could start this army over there that would take Jerusalem, and then the Catholics, since they had an iron grip on Europe, they could once again, for your 200, you don't have to pay the Pope now 200 bars of silver. Now you can just go fight these Muslims, which they created. And the Muslims are being told, you must kill the infidel. And if you kill the infidel, you will go to heaven with 70 virgins. It's just basically, look, blowing smoke up your, you know what. I just don't understand why people are so ignorant that they can't see that the Muslim religious tax is just fire insurance. Like as in the mafia does in New York. Like, hey, you want to buy insurance, we'll protect you from the gangs. It's protection. But this is just double speech. Once again, the Florentinian, Machiavelli, these guys all operate off the same schematic as Machiavelli. All come from the same basic area, but they might have their own different spin, but it's the same shizzle. It's just an ancient hustle. There's this book of Jasher, and it explains how this guy developed the death tax in Egypt. And basically, they took soldiers, and they basically went to their consecrated burial grounds, and where like it was like a spinning. It was just they used it freely, and then this guy figured out he basically it's like kidnapping the burial ground, your dead family relatives, and they were so superstitious back then. They were like, "Oh my God, they're gonna go to hell because they're buried. They're not buried in the consecrated ground." So basically, they would extort them into paying 200 bars of gold. And this guy who created this hustle the king at the time, because this was a king, he wasn't a pharaoh. The king loved the guy's scheme so much that he made him the pharaoh. So, I mean, once again, this is all the same. Chrislam, the Pope is a pharaoh type figure. You know what I'm saying? Our president is a pharaoh type figure. It's like the UN is like, it's a kingdom that doesn't have a leader as of yet, but that leader will be the Antichrist. Or is it going to be the Mahdi, which is world imposed Muslim tax? In other words, man, like they need some kind of enforcer squad to pull off their dirty work. But I mean, if these guys think that the white powers, the European royalty powers, are going to allow them to keep that money forever, I mean, it's going to be short lived. They're just going to use them as like a prostitute. They're going to use these Muslims just like the Pope did to take over Jerusalem. They're going to use them to destabilize the planet, and for a time they may have great success because, I mean, like in America, mafias and gangs always have much great success for at least long enough till they can get established. But then they start to get too big, make too much noise, and they end up going down with the RICO Act, the Organized Crime Conspiracy Insurance Fraud. So basically, this Chrislam Muslim thing, see, Chrislam is impossible. Chrislam means this: the Christians have to pay the Muslims a tax to not be a Muslim. Chrislamicism, it's retarded. I mean, it's just an oxymoron. It's a house divided. It's a freaking fraud. And people are just so freaking ignorant to this, and it's just irritating, man, that it's obvious. It's freaking racketeering, man. And just no one seems to put two and two together. It's freaking fire insurance. You're going to buy fire insurance from the guys who will burn your business down. I mean, it's freaking crazy.